There we go. That's it.
I love it. I love it.
It's happening. Hello, dearies. Welcome to Undersampled Radio, episode 70. What? That's cracking me up because he's cracking up. It's contagious. But it is episode 70 today, as not noted by our show notes. So I'm going to put that in right now while Matt talks you in. Bumper.
Hi, everyone.
Bumper.
Yeah, Matt here. Welcome, Graham, to the show.
It was a pretty good intro, I think, because I could remember which episode it was because I just typed out a whole bunch of episodes and seeded some YouTube stuff and things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're always on it, so I'm not surprised when you can remember stuff like that, or just do an intro without any kind of warning or warm up. You're a pro. What can I say? You're literally. What are you drinking?
Oh, this is the good stuff. This
water,
filtered.
Okay,
filtered. Nice. Huh?
I thought you were going to say it's tequila or something.
Just a pint of tequila. That's what kind of shit.
I guess it's still kind of early there. I'm on licorice tea today.
That sounds awful. Actually, I'm not a licorice person.
Oh, okay. I'm into licorice.
Licorice is one.
I feel like it might be one of those. Yeah, it's a binary thing. It's like coriander / what do you call coriander?
Coriander.
You guys have another name for it. No, cilantro.
In this house, we call it coriander.
Okay.
What?
Yeah.
Is that the same thing?
Yeah.
Wait, what am I thinking? No, I'm thinking of cardamom.
Cardamom. We call it cardamom in the UK.
Cardamom.
But
okay.
Yeah, I wonder if it's genetic. Like, I haven't had a 23andMe type thing done, but it probably comes back and says, it's like whether you've got wet or dry earwax. Do you like licorice all sorts? And I do like licorice all sorts. But
what's your never mind. I'm glad you're wearing headphones. So I wanted to announce that this is going to be a good one. This is going to be a good episode. I can feel it right now. Okay.
It's the licorice.
No, it's the sweater you're wearing. Or maybe it's the Lehman Geophysical shirt I'm wearing. You see that? Thank you, John.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do see it.
Okay, so we have a big milestone coming up, man. You know what it is?
Oh, wait. Hasn't it gone by? Like a second anniversary or something? Wasn't that like last week?
Yeah, our second anniversary went by.
Well, what bigger event milestone could there be? Yeah. Yes, darling. I didn't forget.
Wait, what was it? Was it January 24th? Is that what you said? Well, you looked at it.
I feel like it was.
No one else cares.
Something like that.
Yeah.
No.
Either way, that's cool.
We didn't get any cards.
Can I just say what's coming up?
What is it?
So Fernando Ziegler is going to be on the show next week. The big news, though, is that he's interviewing us. So Fernando's been what?
I love it.
Been collecting data about us, questions from our audience over the last couple of weeks, and he's going to put us in the hot seat, so to speak. And he's not telling us what the questions are, so I feel like they're going to be pretty heated. And it's going to be an awesome episode. So that show will be recorded, broadcast live on, my calendar says Tuesday, the 6th of February. That's next Tuesday at 6:30 Central Time. Be there. And if you can't be there to watch us embarrass ourselves, you can always catch that episode as a podcast 1 week later and through eternity, or at least until the internet crashes. And then if you want to submit some questions to Fernando, you can do so on the Software Underground. Remember, when we started the show, we used to say something about Software Underground every show, and I don't even remember the last time we've mentioned it. So where can people find the Software Underground, Matt?
Softwareunderground.org. That's the place to go. There's nothing there except a button, but that's where you go.
Well, there's things on the Software Underground itself. There's nothing on that URL but a button to sign up for the good stuff that exists behind that button. It is free. Sign up. We haven't plugged in a while, so we'll do that again. But anyway, you can still, I think, I actually don't really even know what's going on, but I assume that Fernando's still accepting questions and dirt on Matt and I. So that's going to be cool. See you Tuesday for an embarrassing time.
I'm looking forward to that. That sounds cool. Is he not on Twitter? I thought he was. Yeah, he's on Twitter. Feziegler, Feziegler. So you can probably catch him there too if you don't want to sign up for Slack and have yet another source of notifications and social media entrapment.
Yes, that's true. You can turn those notifications off.
It's
another cool Slack. Hey, so while we're talking about Slacks, I found a cool Slack, Austin Deep Learning Slack, which is hyphenated, Austin-deep-learning.slack.com.
What's it about?
It is pretty good, though. The regular contributors on the Slack are not very knowledgeable, like expert level, publishing papers about the space. It's another good place to go and talk about silly ideas you have. Next thing on the list.
I like it.
Another big one. I have a new command center, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
So
exciting.
As you may know, I moved to, I actually got to talk to you about this too. I moved to Austin a few months ago, and my office in there doesn't have one of those nice, cozy phone booth rooms like Matt is sitting in right now. And it was something that I always really wanted. So I found a utility closet with wires hanging around everywhere, junk piled up and all this. So I just...
Oh, that's not your office. I assumed that was your office.
That they stick me in a utility closet. So I just threw all that stuff away. Who knows? I shouldn't have done there. So if you're missing anything, please contact Undersampled Radio. That's Matt Hall at novascotia.com. And I got some acoustic panels. I slapped those up there. What else? I got an orange carpet because, like my shirt, Xpero's color is orange. I have a cool chair on the way. It's not in there right now. It's just a nasty little kitchen chair, which is why I'm not broadcasting from in there this evening.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
As you can see, I'm still at my house.
Yeah. It looked pretty good. So next time, you're going to be in there in the cupboard of glory. Next time on the next for the Feziegler interview, the Feziegler tapes.
Perhaps. Yeah. I think so. I'm going to take a couple calls in there as the week goes. Well, it's Thursday, but anyway. Yeah. See how the sound isolation is and test.
Nice.
And so maybe.
Does that mean we'll be doing our shows at a different time, do you think?
Whatever works for you.
Oh, okay. No, I was just wondering because it just occurred to me when we were talking about it earlier that it's really hard for people in Europe right now to chime in to the live. I mean, who would want to miss the live recording of this? And if we moved it back a bit, maybe they could catch it before bed, as a kind of soporific or something to cheer them up a bit after a hard day. Remind them why actually their lives aren't that bad. Because look at those two jokers
stuck in a utility closet. And I'm telling you, it's like circuit breakers and exposed ground wires and things. It's going to be awesome. So actually, it adds an element of surprise to the show. Will Graham make it out alive this episode, right? So I'm into it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun.
Nice.
So you had a broadcasting epiphany, it says there in the notes.
Yeah. What do you think I meant by that? Because it just occurred to me that sounded like a segue. Because we were just talking about podcasting and so on.
Yeah.
Is that what you were thinking?
That is what it sounded like to me. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not what it is at all.
Okay, pivot time. Here we go.
No, it's good. It was a bit of an epiphany, and it was about broadcasting, but about NumPy broadcasting.
Oh, I see. Broadcasting into. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know why this never. I mean, I feel like I knew about this behavior, but I've only just realized that it should be exploited everywhere. So I'll try really hard to explain what I'm talking about really quickly. But I'd often thought about broadcasting as a convenience, so that when you multiply, let's say, a 1D vector and a 1D array by a scalar, NumPy figures out, oh, you want to do like element-wise multiplication, and likewise, if you take, say, a 2D array and multiply it by a 1D array, it tends to do the right thing and say, oh, well, this 1D array fits the 2D array on this axis, so I'll broadcast it across the other dimension and give you this kind of, yeah, right? Mm-hmm. Which is cool. But I only just sort of realized properly that if, like, so let's say, well, I was looking at a filter bank, so like imagine a series of wavelets at different frequencies, and we had, it turns out, have all over our code places where we basically loop over the frequencies and create 1D arrays and stack them. Mm-hmm. But it turns out that if instead of doing that, you change your wavelet generating function to, I mean, it's still going to make essentially a 1D wavelet, but you add a dimension to the frequencies that you're passing in. So you pass in, let's say, a numpy.arange or numpy.linspace, but you add a dimension to it so that now it's essentially a column matrix instead of just a 1D array, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Then when you do the math, you get back your filter bank. You get back a 2D array. So this might be completely obvious to everybody, but I only just internalized this. And I'm now frantically going back over all of our code and finding all these places where we were doing essentially this incredibly clunky thing and replacing it with adding a dimension by reshaping or by using, expand dims, I think is np.expand dim. Yeah. And then all the math just looks like math again, and you don't have these stupid loops everywhere. And it's 10 times faster, by the way, to do it that way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So explain to us then the difference between broadcasting and map.
Well, so like I feel like in a map, you want to take something that already exists and apply a function to it. I guess you could do the same thing with map,
but you'd have one extra step.
Yeah, but there's some places where you can't use broadcasting natively. So numpy.convolve, for example, won't take this. The two arrays that you give numpy.convolve have to be one-dimensional. You can't give it a column type vector and expect it to convolve it with a row type vector. Not that there are row and column vectors per se, but it doesn't work. So the SciPy convolve will do that, but NumPy convolve won't. So if you wanted to take a function like NumPy convolve, you'd have to use map or a list comprehension or NumPy apply along axis or something else. So yeah, anyway, and of course it works in multiple dimensions. So you could, like I've been talking about creating a filter bank, but you could create a bank of filter banks with the same trick, so that all the math is just looks like an equation, but you're actually operating multiple dimensions simultaneously. So I had a look while I was trying to figure this out. I was looking at, I came across, I don't know if you've heard of ufuncs, but I guess ufuncs are these the way that NumPy implements broadcasting, and you can make your own ufuncs out of NumPy array, out of NumPy functions. So there's something called np.fromPyFunc, I think it is. So you just give it a Python function and it'll make a ufunc out of it. And then you can use things like outer and get an outer sum or outer product type behavior from any function.
Supporting array broadcasting, typecasting, several other standard features. Yeah.
So I know
wrapper function. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So basically, in principle, you can vectorize anything, and you can take advantage of NumPy's sort of ground level vectorization strategies. For some, and I found that from PyFunc works really well for very simple functions, but I couldn't get it to work on, let's say, like a large equation, like the exact Zoaprit solution. I couldn't get it to work. So it might just be me being clumsy, but in the end, I found that using this dimension adding broadcasting trick worked just fine.
And it's a cool band name.
What is
PyFunc?
PyFunc?
Yeah.
I like it. Anyway, so there you go. That's my epiphany of the week, everyone.
Okay. Well, I was hoping that we would get a broadcasting epiphany, not a broadcasting epiphany. No. But unfortunately for our listeners, they'll have to put up with our standard broadcasting until next week when it's transposed in the interviewer-interviewee dimensions.
Oh, yeah. Well, so speaking of transposes,
okay.
I've been going through. So I think probably most people listening to the show will have heard of John Claerbout.
Yep.
He's a professor at Stanford, and
hey, we have data scientists in our audience.
Right. Well, Claerbout's a geophysicist, right? But I mean, he seems to straddle this kind of world of maths, physics, geophysics, and is a big proponent, sorry, not component. He may be both, but a big proponent of the adjoint method of solution finding, I guess. So matrix-free computation in geophysics. And this is all a bit new to me, so I really don't quite know what I'm talking about. But it's the idea that we can solve geophysical equations where we would normally use a big giant matrix without using matrices by relying on adjoints. So there's complex conjugate adjoints, transpose thereof.
And how does that eliminate a matrix?
I guess you functionalize you turn it, instead of having like an operator matrix, you turn your operator into a function, which is kind of how it started out in the first place, potentially. And the next tutorial is on this very subject. So there's a really nice example of, you remember when I did the inverse, like linear inversion tutorial last year?
X equals B.
So someone's worked that. Yeah. So someone's worked that exact tutorial over with this adjoint method.
When did the paper
to illustrate how you can do it without matrices? It's coming out in April.
No. When did the Claerbout paper come out that this is based on?
Well, the thing I'm going through, I linked to in the show notes, and it's his book.
Oh, I'm writing it down right now.
Which is free. I guess the book's called GEE, maybe. But it's like Geophysical Image Estimation by Example is the name of the book. So GIEE. It was written by John with Sergey Fomel. And I've linked to his series of videos on this topic, where he basically goes through all sorts of things, basically taking almost every geophysical operation you can think of, from simple things like zero padding and linear interpolation, through to convolution, and then beyond to I think his like exploding reflectors and migration and NMO, and expressing them all in terms of these this adjoint method. So I've only got through like half of the first segment, so hence my stuttering description of what on earth he's up to. But yeah, it's kind of intriguing. I'm going to let you.
Sounds fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, check it out, because it seems like it's all the rage in Austin, because Sergey is, the guy who's carrying this torch now, I think. So yeah. Anyway.
Well, we can discuss the inverse operators in square invertible matrices, right? So if there's a lot of literature in the geophysical space, particularly that deals with adjoint operators as the inverse of the original operator, and
right.
I know that Claerbout had quite a bit of material in the literature about that, and it works, right? But you're still using matrix operations to actually implement solutions. So I'm going to spend 11 hours, 6 minutes, and 44 seconds watching these videos.
Yes, do. Well, also, while I think of it, in the current leading edge, so the one that just came out, February issue, is the third and final part of the FWI tutorial, in which they are using, or they demonstrate actually the difference between this sort of using strategies like gradient descent versus using, I think it's the Gauss-Newton method, adjoint method, and they're also going on about doing it matrix free, because I think the problem is the matrices are so gigantic that you don't want to invert them.
If do you know anytime you'd be able to get in touch with Fomel about talking about this stuff? Anytime you might have a conversation about this?
Yeah, well, it's funny. It's funny you should mention that. Yeah, so on the 13th, I'll be traveling down to Austin for a few days.
Woo!
Yeah, and giving apparently 2 talks on Friday, one at Beg and one at UT. I don't really know what the difference is, but I guess there's 2 different sites, buildings, towns. I don't know.
I just said this last week.
So I'm looking forward to that. Don't know what I'm going to be talking about yet, but
have they given you a theme?
Something totally awesome. No. So I got some new recipes I've been working on.
Cool.
And then we're going to be hanging out too and doing at least one podcast and just general chit chat probably.
And the mother of all trail runs as well.
Right. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So keep that up. And then the next week after you give your amazing talk, I'm supposed to follow your amazing talk up with some other amazing talk. So I'll be talking. I actually do have a topic because I told them what I was going to do. And it's going to be related to the denoising of seismic by image translation deep neural network paper that just came out.
Yeah.
In what was that called? The Canadian Society of Exploration Geophysicists Recorder.
Yes.
There's a link to the repo in our show notes. It's open. Along with, who else? Brennan Hall has a repo in there. I was about to use his Software Underground handle, but Matteo Nicoli has another repo in there. So go check that out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And if you want to come to the talk, I think you can. I think it's open to everybody. The big one.
Yeah. Well, put some tickets on Eventbrite, man.
It's what I meant to say was it's $700 to attend, and you can send the check directly to Undersampled Radio. That's Graham Gansel, Austin.com. And so Matt's talk would then be on the 16th, and my talk will be on the 23rd.
Right.
Okay. So
You're going to be selling CDs after?
Speaking of
signing posters?
That's exactly right. Speaking of talks, man, I had a good segue and I lost my train of thought. Speaking of talks, we're so good at segues on this show. This past Saturday was Day-to-Day Texas, which was really awesome. And we had 2 talks given there the first one was called something about graph convolutional network analysis. And the other one was called something about machine learning, human bias in machine learning systems. And it was about how to eliminate that. So I have some cheers for the authors of those talks, Steve Purvis, Lynn Posick, and Chris LaCava, who basically breathed life into my junky old Jupyter notebooks to build amazing talks. It's been promised that these talks are recorded and are going to be posted online for free. So keep an eye out on the Day-to-Day website. That should be coming presumably soon. Other talks.
The Day-to-Day Texas site?
Yep.
Oh yeah, I think I found the schedule. That's cool. They're going to be online.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And
holy crap, look at all those.
What?
How do you get that many sponsors? That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's right. Yeah.
Are these folks all in Austin? Is this an Austin thing?
No. I mean, this event was, but there's the Day-to-Day Texas was in Austin, Day-to-Day Seattle, Day-to-Day something, I don't know, all over the United States.
Was there something else too going on last week? It felt like there were several days worth of conferencey things happening with you guys.
Yes. There was an internal conference, a company presentation day, and we had a ball just talking about tech and stuff. It was awesome. Unfortunately, those talks will not be hosted live in public, so I wasn't going to mention it. But the other thing I was going to mention is that we had a Software Underground meetup in Houston on last Wednesday, 8 days ago. It was awesome. So all the Houston Software Undergrounders met up and drank some beers and talked about what it is we do. It was really fun. So if you're in Austin listening to this, what did I say? If you're in Houston listening to this, let's do another one. It was great. I'll drive down. It's only a couple hours. Nice. I have one last bullet point. Should I just continue rambling on?
I would.
Okay.
Sounded like you were going to.
Well, I wanted to breathe and give you a chance to jump in because you have some actual content. I'm just talking. Okay, so anyway, webinars.
What about them?
Apparently giving 6 of them this month.
Oh, wow.
All different topics.
Okay. That's a lot.
You're telling me. It's going to be pretty sweet. So there are several of them. I think there's 3 webinars that are pretty high level that link business use cases to technologies. These are all machine learning plus graph analysis technologies. And then there's 3 in-depth ones that kind of dive a little deeper. So we're going to be talking about these 3 horizontal themes in the webinars. One is fraud detection and prevention. Okay. Another one is customer 360 enlightenment. And the third one is supply chain optimization. So it's going to be awesome. Sign up.
It's free. And how can a person find these?
Experoinc.com. Maybe there's a webinar button or something. I probably should have. I'm going to link that in the show notes now.
Okay, because I went to training and then it looks like there are some webinars, but then it looks like there are quite a few. What? Oh, I'm looking at something that's horribly out of date. Ignore me.
Yeah, you think that
whatever I was saying was completely made up. I was on some kind of archive, like the Wayback Machine or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Graph Data Accelerator 1-day course. Is that you? No.
Yes, it is, but that's not the right thing.
Okay.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome that I can't find the material I'm talking about. Well, I will get that and I will link it in the show. Anyway, that's it for me. What's up with
Yeah,
you?
nice. Well, there's lots
Oh,
of really cool stuff on here.
you were in Norway. I forgot. You went back the
Yep.
first time in 10 years.
That's
Except
right.
for
More
a
15.
cross country ski trip race.
No, that was the 15-year ago thing.
Oh.
Yeah, I went with Diego to Oslo, which is nice. I haven't spent much time in Oslo before. Well, we were actually in a little bit outside Oslo in a place called Fornebu. And yeah, we were at Statoil for a week teaching sort of introduction to Python, scientific Python for geoscientists. So it's like all the content is, geology and geophysics. And it was awesome. We had 20 people, and we went right from like full deer in the headlights mode to building cool projects and things on at the end of the week. So it was really good. It was really fun.
Awesome. What kind of projects were you working on?
Well, we basically invite them to start thinking about projects right from the beginning of the class, and then gradually we kind of hone project ideas as the class goes on. And then the idea is that by Friday they've self-organized into little clusters of people around stuff that they're interested in, and then they go off and try and not build the entire project, because most of them have just started programming on the Monday. So it's more like let's find a piece of it that you can achieve, like the first rung on the ladder, and whether it's a plot or implement an equation with a slider in a notebook, or whatever it is, like let's take the first step. And yeah, everybody managed to do something useful, and cool. I think they can then go off. The idea is that then they go off and build on it and have some motivation for carrying on learning, because that's the big thing with courses, isn't it? Is often you just sort of go off and go back to your Excel spreadsheets and stuff and never look back. So we try and come up with a few ways to make stuff stick a little bit. Yeah, so anyway, It was a lot of fun. I hope we get to do it again.
Awesome. Yeah. And you have a Norwegian keyboard.
And oh man, it was such a tragedy, because don't even like this. On the one hand, I look really organized in this story, and on the other hand, I look like a bit of an idiot. So I like
those are the type of stories we like.
At least a couple of weeks before we went away, my laptop, the one that I travel with, has been kind of flaking out a little bit, like not waking up properly after sleep and stuff like that. Kind of like me, but it was getting more and more like me. So I was like, I'm gonna buy another laptop, and I'll be ready when it craps out. And was sort of thinking, well, I'll get a similar one. I like these Asus ZenBooks for traveling with, because they're not too expensive. They're really nicely built, until they start crapping out. But I'll wait until Ubuntu 18.04 comes out, so which is like April or something. And I didn't have time, frankly, to set it up. Mm-hmm. So I didn't take it to Oslo. I took my old one. And sure enough, in Montreal, on the way there, we literally just left Halifax, and the computer doesn't wake up. And I fiddle about with it and plug it in to try and charge the batteries. And the little pin inside the power thing, the little pin comes off in the power thing.
I committed suicide.
Yeah, basically I committed suicide. I'm going to teach a computing course. Thank goodness this was like Friday evening, so we're getting to Oslo on Saturday. So we get there and go straight to a computer store, and I'm like, have you got any laptops with a US keyboard? I'll take one. And there's just like, there's no US keyboards. It's like, that's not happening. And then I'm like, okay, can we repair this laptop? And they're just like, yeah, but that's going to take till Thursday or whatever. So I'm like, okay, I guess I need a new laptop then. Even though I've got one at home, which is great and fine. So I buy this laptop, and of course it's got a Norwegian keyboard. And so this was Saturday afternoon. So there I am Monday, like, because we do a lot of the courses like live coding so that people can follow along. Oh, no. So here I'm trying to type.
How do you say sudo apt get install in Norwegian?
Yeah, well, just getting it set up was a nightmare because it was so new. It's literally just come out, this laptop. It's got like, you know, the latest whatever, the Intel processor and blah blah blah. And thank goodness Diego was with me, because he does this stuff with his eyes closed. So we were like installing like literally bleeding edge kernels just to get stuff like the Wi-Fi working.
Yikes.
It was awful. Yeah, so for Saturday was awful. And luckily we got it working, managed to, you know, recover, get Dropbox installed, get my stuff on there, get Git on there, get Anaconda. Thank goodness for Anaconda. Anyway, I mean, but then it sort of just gets even more kind of crazy. And it's always like this in the classes, because we try to avoid using like a cloud Jupyter Hub or whatever, which we have, and we set it up and everything. But I like people to get stuff set up on their machines.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, that brings its own kind of awfulness, because usually you're behind a firewall, and often they're on like corporate machines, right? Not personal ones. They can't install stuff or whatever. So, I mean, that all that's always a headache too.
So
Windows, man, tell you.
So
How do people live with Windows?
Stop. Tell me about your new computer, because I'm in the market for a new computer potentially coming up here in the next 6 months.
Okay.
Laptop.
The one that I like, or the Norwegian one?
Both.
Yeah, well, they're both one. So the one that I like, that I was looking forward. Well, they're both Asus. So that one's an Asus ZenBook. What's it called? Like UX 430 something something. So it's like i7 8550, and 16 gigs of RAM, half a terabyte SSD. It's nice. It's nice. A nice portable machine that costs, you know, not much more than $1,000 kind of thing.
So here's,
and the other one's a VivoBook, I think. So it's like a cheap ZenBook. Yeah.
Okay. So as you know, I always run on laptops, mostly Ubuntu, and I was picking around the other day thinking about getting a Mac and putting Ubuntu on it.
Yep.
And okay, so first initial thoughts, and then I'll tell you my hang-up.
Oh, I'm putting Ubuntu on it. Okay. I don't really know what that means. Like blowing away the macOS?
Yeah.
Okay. So just because, why though?
Because I have like, I'm set in my ways, man.
Yeah. No, I get why you want Ubuntu. I just don't get why you'd spend all that money on a MacBook and then blow away the OS.
Yeah.
And
okay, so
I'm thinking, does Linux work okay on a Mac? I guess it does.
Yeah.
It's all good. Okay.
So then the hang up I have then is that all the Macs have those touch bars on them, which is absolutely not going to work. Right. And it's like the escape button is on there. So that idea
I tell you,
window, because
so like I say, I like these ZenBooks, but for traveling with, like I don't think I'm not sure I'd want one as an everyday machine. It's a little bit flimsy, not flimsy, that's the wrong word, but I don't know. I like traveling with it because they don't weigh much, but I like having a proper machine at home. But Diego's got the Dell, whatever those things are. I can't remember what they're called, but the really nice Dells, and it's gorgeous. Like, I feel like if you were buying something to use every day, I would go for one of those from what I've seen. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm looking it up right now.
I'm not a computery person particularly, like hardware wise, so I don't really know. Dell XPS, those things are nice. But if you get one that's spec like my ZenBook, it's going to cost you like an extra $500, I think.
Okay.
But I think he's got like an NVIDIA card in his, and you know.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
got a lovely screen and lovely keyboard. It looks beautiful.
I'm not super picky about having a GPU in my laptop because I don't, I do all that work up in the one of these bad boys up in the cloud,
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's why I don't. Yeah.
One thing I wish that I could do, and I'm sure at least several of our listeners have done this. One thing I wish I could do with my laptop is have Ubuntu at the same time as having one of these cool flip around laptops that turns into a tablet-y looking thing, and have that functionality still work with Ubuntu.
Oh, it doesn't.
How to do that, let me know. Well, like the drivers for example, if there's a stylus, no chance. But like a lot of the times I tried this on one and I just hosed the entire computer. So the thing I like about so I don't own what I really should do is just buy a freaking iPad or something, because the best part about the iPads and the tablets and stuff like that is reading scientific literature, because you just can have it like, it looks, it's like a piece of paper ish. Anyway, what was I saying? I don't know.
Hear you.
So I'll look through Asus.
I'd totally go for like something with e-paper on the lid or something. I really like that. Is that what's called e-paper? You know what I mean?
On the lid?
Something like that, like on the other side.
Oh,
I like reading on the screen.
Are you talking about an actual device that exists, or are you just talking about duct taping a Kindle to the back of your laptop?
Yeah, the second one.
There's the new tablet that came out called Remarkable. It's pretty cool. It's just like a big Kindle that has a stylus and you can write, and it looks really cool.
I thought the Kindles had gone like LCD. Is that not what's happened?
I don't have mine in reach, but mine's nice. It's got that nice display, and it has a backlight, but it still looks like a page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I liked my Kindle until I left it on an airplane. I've never done to a book.
I'm so snobby about books. I only read books that I can get on my Kindle now.
Yeah.
It's horrible. I know.
Because we stopped doing our books as ebooks because I hated my Kindle so much. You think we should do them again? It's a pain.
Yeah,
it's a pain to make them into ebooks.
Well, it's new age, man.
And they look gross.
There's snobs like me out there. Got to do it.
What about Matt? Have you seen an ebook on your Kindle with nice equations?
So
figures.
The reason that I don't read scientific literature on the Kindle, you can turn PDFs into ebooks, as you know, is that images and equations are horrible on it.
Yeah, right. And code, I'm thinking. I haven't tried a programming book.
That's why I want the sort of tablet thing, because it handles typesetting better than ebooks. But I also want Linux, and I don't want two devices. I don't have to carry around it. I had a Lenovo Yoga book for a while, which was sweet. I loved it. Like little tiny thing, super light, flipped around into a tablet, was awesome for reading science papers. But the keyboard was electronic. It lit up, and you had to touch type like a cell phone, and it was garbage. So I get rid of it. I just want one device that does both things really well. Can you solve that for me?
No. You're out of luck. I like books.
I know. We have events coming out of our ears this year. Go to agilescientific.com/events. I'll be at one of those events at least. I'll be in Salt Lake City with you boys.
Slick.
Doing Python boot camping and hackathoning, and then going to a conference called the AAPG.
It's going to be good.
And you've been revamping what? Sorry.
Know any companies that want to sponsor those events?
Yeah, I've been looking around for those types of companies, and may have some leads. So there's lots of people in Austin.
Yeah, we are. It's kind of a new event on our calendar. So,
What is?
well, the doing it at APG.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's another event essentially. And so I don't necessarily. Well, I did like two things. I guess I thought it'd be nice to involve some different sponsors from usual. For stuff like cloud and so on. I just thought that would be good to cast the net a bit wider. And also, I just, I feel kind of weird going back to the same people over and over again. But I don't know that we've had Xpero sponsor since the merger. Right, we had Sebastian a couple of times, I think, sponsor in his old outfit.
Yep. Well, you'll be in Texas. They'll be in Texas. Come hang out.
dot. Mm-hmm. So anyway, and I've also just put the tickets up for Copenhagen. So if we have got anyone listening in Europe and you're going to EAGE, or even if you're not going to EAGE, please have a look at that. We're going to be, that's going to be cool because we're going to be doing sort of visualization as the theme, which I think will range from sort of just interesting plots all the way through, I hope, to AR, VR stuff. So that's going to be in June.
The OG hacker will be there.
The perv.
Yep.
Yeah.
Old Steve Purvis. He'll be there.
It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We don't quite know where. We haven't got a venue for either place yet, but the venues that we're looking at in both Salt Lake and Copenhagen look really, really cool. So I'm pretty excited about the venues.
Awesome.
Yeah.
There's one more thing on the list that we haven't covered, and we have just enough time to cover it. So that is, you've been revamping Bruges.
Bruges, yeah. Well, Bruges. So this is one of the places where I've been implementing the fruit of my broadcasting epiphany.
Wait, tell us what Bruges stands for first.
Bruges stands for bag of really useful geophysical equations and stuff. And it's so called because it really is just a bag of functions. Like there is one or two classes in there, but it's mostly just functions. I could use some feedback actually on it, because we've sort of tried to organize it, but I feel like in trying to organize it, we've made it more difficult to use. Because it's like, well, where do you put, like NumPy just sort of essentially throws all of its stuff into one big bag. So everything is just np dot this, np dot that. So it's like convolve, FFT. I guess FFT is a bag on its own, but most of it's flat. Whereas SciPy, scikit-learn have this more kind of tiered, structure where, you've got interpolators over here and statistics over there. That drives you nuts, eh?
Yep. Yeah, I'm a flat cut type of guy.
Yeah, I feel like after all my hacking around in Bruges lately, I've been like, I can't remember where stuff is.
Yeah.
So how the heck is anyone who's never been inside the code gonna know? So maybe I reserve the right to break everything still with Bruges, I'm afraid. Hopefully that's not too upsetting to its users. But so I've been going around vectorizing stuff. I've been trying to write better doc strings and do more of them. I've been adding functions. So like NMO, I just added today. What else have I added recently? Some nonlinear filters for smoothing and that kind of thing. A new wavelet I added, the sync function, and so on. And lots more tests. I want to move the tests from unit test to PyTest, because PyTest is awesome and unit test is, I think, a bit clunky, but haven't got around to doing that yet. And yeah, I'm just going to try and be better at adding stuff, like add something every week kind of idea. So yeah, it's gradually improving, but like I say, it's still in alpha. So until the dust settles a bit, I think things might get broken here and there. I mean, don't get me wrong. So a few things, there are bugs around, but on the whole, I do, for me, it's just a sort of catalog of stuff you might want to do, from whatever Aki Richards reflectivities to fluid substitution to time depth conversion, all that stuff that can just slow you down if you don't have quick access to something. At least, even if you don't end up using our function, you just rip it out and adapt it. I feel like at least maybe gives people a head start.
I used it in some project I did recently. Maybe it was that article we touched on earlier this episode. I can't remember. Anyway,
okay.
So hopefully you broke my project. What's the Fourier transform of a sync function? You know it.
Is it a sync function?
No.
I don't know.
Maybe we'll leave that one. It's rect. It's a boxcar function.
It's a boxcar.
Yep.
Okay, fine. I can't do Fourier transforms in my head.
No, me either. I just memorized them after doing it for so long in graduate school. Okay, so with that, we're through our list. And I have to say, hey, Matt.
What is it, Graham?
On your bullets here, it says, now I have a Norwegian keyboard, FFS. What does FFS stand for?
Well, how quickly can you press the off-air button?
Go on, you can come up with something.
Forferdelig syn. Jeg vet ikke.